Shalom, Israel, grace and mercies from God the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ be unto you. All praises to the Most High that we made it another week to another Sabbath day. Just generally speaking, giving all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father. And we do so in the name of His only begotten Son. And we do so by His Holy Ghost. With all that being said, let me check and make sure everything is functioning properly. First on this end, appears to be. All right. So with that, let me check from y'all's end. I'll go ahead and put my phone on silent. Let's see. How are we looking on? How are we looking on YouTube? Let's see. Are we live? We appear to be. Are we live? All right. So let me check Facebook. We should be good on there as well since we're good on YouTube. There we go. Is it? Yeah, it appears to be. It appears to be. All right. So with all that, I'm gonna throw that down here. But trying to think if there's anything that I guess Iran, the protests in Iran are still going on, and I had heard some things. But I'm not really gonna speak on them because I didn't really get confirmation. I didn't see anybody talking about it, so I'm not gonna speak on that. Let's see. What else? Of course, the Russia-Ukraine thing still going on. There's always that never ended. Right? There's still escalation on that. There's still all sorts of things going on over there in Ukraine specifically. Let's see. Again, on the Israel-Gaza situation as well, that's always going on. Just because I don't talk about it doesn't mean it's not still happening. All right, it is definitely still happening. It's just like, all these other things are popping off as well, right? So I want to be thorough, in covering not everything, but just about. Let's see. And there's some smaller things, I suppose, but the Iran thing is the main thing that's happening that we're not going to be talking about. The other two big stories that happened this week, we'll be talking about them. And when I say this week, I mean since the last class, because I did the class last week talking about what had happened on Christmas Day in Nigeria, as far as the U.S. is interventionist policy is usually for oil, right? And then what do we have? It was a few hours after I ended the stream last week. I go to sleep and then I wake up to people talking about how Trump had just bombed the hell out of Venezuela and captured Maduro with his wife, right? That all happened in one fell swoop last Sabbath, right? It's wild, crazy. So I'm not going to talk about like him doing that specifically, but more the aftermath of that, because that's where we're at now. We're in the aftermath of it. It's been a week since that, and honestly, it feels like it's been a month, right? Just because of everything popping off. So let me go ahead and bring this down. We'll go ahead and get into the first article here, and this was a live coverage of a meeting at the White House. But it's done. There's not going to be any more updates because this meeting has adjourned, so to speak. It says Trump meets with oil executives as U.S. intercepts fifth sanctioned tanker. So if anybody's sitting here saying, "Oh, it wasn't about the oil, blah 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 blah," no, that's a lie. Clearly, it was about taking Venezuela's oil. That's all it was. All right, Maduro did not want to do business. they're putting in there somebody who will do business, right? For now, it's Maduro's vice president, but she's been talking about like how maybe she don't want to do business, so they'll try to get Machado in there, right? If nobody else will do business, they'll put Machado in there. All right. So obviously that's a picture there. It said obviously the updates have ended because it's not live anymore. It says President Donald Trump met with oil executives at the White House Friday in hopes of securing $100 billion in investments to revive Venezuela's ability to fully tap into its expansive reserves of petroleum. And that's what it's about. It's about that oil that Asher's got. When I don't know when exactly I had first talked about it, but probably the history of Venezuela, talking about several months ago when I first talked about the tension between Maduro and Trump. I went into the history of Venezuela and the oil that Asher has over there, the tribe of Asher over there, and that part of South America got all that oil, particularly the country of Venezuela got all that oil. And Maduro didn't want to do business with America, so America said, okay, you don't want to do business, we'll put somebody else in there. Trump hasn't laid out how the profits from the sale of Venezuelan oil will be divided, but he told oil company executives that they needed to start making investments to get their share. U.S. forces boarded another oil tanker in the Caribbean Sea, according to the U.S. military, as the Trump administration continues to target sanctioned tankers traveling to and from Venezuela. The pre-dawn action was carried out by U.S. Marines and the Navy, taking part in the months-long buildup of forces in the Caribbean, according to U.S. Southern Command, which declared there is no safe haven for criminals, as it announced the seizure of the vessel called the Olena. So, I guess anybody driving a oil tanker is now going to be considered a criminal, because I mean that's clearly what this is. This is an oil tanker. This isn't somebody smuggling drugs. This is a person who is transporting oil, right? This is a tanker that is transporting oil, quite literally, and they just called him criminal, right? If you're Venezuelan and you're transporting oil, you're a criminal. But yeah, this is with hindsight, hindsight being 2020, I can see now why, and I mean specifically why there were several high up in the U.S. Military who decided to step down, right? Because this was after the Pete Hegseth, lecture that he had given, but it wasn't directly after, right? It was after, Trump and his administration started doing the drone strikes, I believe. But I had read at least the title of the article, if not the article itself, about a U.S. Navy admiral stepping down. And there were several other cases like him. And yeah, they probably had intel that, hey, the U.S. is about to go, seize Venezuela. And they were, and then they started asking questions. Well, why? We know the drugs are coming in from Colombia and Mexico. Why are we taking Venezuela? And then they either were told directly or indirectly that, hey, we're just going to go take their oil, and they weren't comfortable doing that. So yeah, that's like I said, with hindsight, it's easy to see, but I fully didn't expect them at least to do it last week. You know what I mean? I knew that tensions were rising there, but it's when compared to like Iraq, in the 2000s, this was just swift, quick, fast, in a hurry. This was like a stealth operation, basically. Hey, we're just gonna go down there, bomb them, kidnap their president and his wife, and just take control of the country. Whereas Iraq. And I was talking about this with Gad last week, and he was talking about how Iraq was more about the war itself, about war profiteering, right? And that's exactly right when it comes to like Cheney and Rumsfeld and them. So they wanted to prolong that as much as possible so that they can make money off the war. Whereas in this case, the U.S. just wanted the oil and wanted somebody in position of authority that could cooperate, right? That would cooperate. So they did this real, quick, fast, in a hurry while everybody was asleep, right? That's how they could have done the Iraq War if they wanted to, but they stretched that out. All right, because there were, multiple reasons for that. The Olena is the fifth tanker that has been seized by U.S. forces as part of a broader effort by the Trump administration to control the distribution of Venezuela's oil products globally from following the U.S. ouster of President Nicolas Maduro in a surprise nighttime raid. All right, so this is also interesting as well. This rumor, I guess you would say, this rumor of the next expansion into Greenland. But we'll hold off on that. That's another thing that I'd say that I forgot to mention as far as NATO and I guess it was technically NATO what I had seen. NATO is not wanting that to happen, right? Not willing to cooperate with Trump just going in and taking Greenland. So that may be next, where the U.S. may be fighting wars on every front. It's very possible with the way things are going. And this was in that same meeting. You got a little happy pen. But let's see if there's anything else on Maduro specifically. Yeah, so I'll read this because this is more about the interventionist policy in Latin America. From pushback to Trump's self-described Donroe Doctrine instead of Monroe Doctrine, which I forget which Monroe it was, who come up with the idea that America should just take everything in Latin America. That the U.S. should just operate everything in Latin America, and it has the right to do so or whatever. But anyway, the Donroe Doctrine of aggression in the Western Hemisphere to breaks in party unity over healthcare. Republican lawmakers are displaying signs of independence from Trump after spending much of the last year acquiescing to his practically every demand. It showed a new dynamic in the GOP as Republicans embarked on a difficult campaign to keep control of both the House and Senate. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, speaking at the U.S.-Mexico border Friday with a group of Republican Senate candidates, said that Republicans were going to be focused like a laser on issues of affordability and pointed to legislation in the works on housing and health care. Thune's border trip and talk of affordability were a nod back to some of the core themes of Trump's presidential campaign, but the focus in Washington as of late has instead been dominated by Trump's military operation to capture Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. His threats to use military force to take control of Greenland, the release of case files of Jeffrey Epstein, and a debate over extending subsidies for insurance offered under the Affordable Care Act. Right? They pretty much moved past that one. An issue where Republicans have long struggled to find unity. So this he has been making remarks concerning taking Greenland. And you see the GOP pushing back on that a bit as well. I'm going to say something about child care here. Right. So Trump trying to cut back on child care. Let's see. Let me jump down to where is it at? That's the Somali community and Renee Good. We'll get to Renee Good here shortly. But it says the oil industry hails constructive conversation with Trump but makes no promises. The American Petroleum Institute, the oil industry's largest lobbying group, called the White House meeting a constructive initial conversation that highlighted both Venezuela's energy potential and challenges, including security and stable governance. Still, no commitments were made. Legally, each company will need to independently evaluate the situation and make its own investment decisions, but we look forward to ongoing engagement with the administration as this situation continues to unfold, said Bethany Williams, an API spokesperson. Ryan Lentz, CEO of ConocoPhillips, told Trump the entire Venezuelan energy system may need to be restructured. while ExxonMobil CEO Darren Woods called Venezuela uninvestable right now. Right, so Trump saying, "Hey, come in, get the oil while it's hot." Why? Whereas some of these oil officials are like, "Why? Like we already got our places established and we're drilling like crazy." And it may be, as he said, uninvestable. Right, so it's they will be down there, but it may take more than what they're willing to do right now. And there's another one right here about the oil. Trump hasn't laid out how the profits. Well, I'll read the headline. Venezuela's oil revenues are going to be split with U.S. oil companies. Right, that's what we all assumed what would happen. Right, he's meeting with these executives here. Trump hasn't laid out how the profits from the sale of Venezuelan oil will be divided, but he told oil company executives that they need to start making investments to get their share. We have to get them to invest, and then we have to get their money back back as quickly as we can, and then we can divvy it all up between Venezuela, the United States, and them. Right. So when he says the United States, he's talking about greasing his own pockets with the pockets of his buddies and financial investors, right? The government. We are not going to see that money unless like oil prices continue to go down, and that's the only way we'll get a discount on oil. But Venezuela is not going to see any of this money unless you're specifically talking about like the oil rigs and investing in how they extract the oil. They'll do that, but they're not going to give back to Venezuela at all, right? We've seen time and time again that they never do that. They never give back to the places where they actually take the resources from. All right. Trump said, "I think the formula is simple, but the president left it unclear how the money would be split. An issue still subject to negotiations with the businesses that he said would be led by Interior Secretary Doug Burgum and Energy Secretary Chris Wright." All right. Let's see. The Greenland thing is pretty funny. I need to talk about that. Like, I don't know. I'll probably talk about it when he takes it. Let's just be real. He's talking about he's going to take it. That could be next week. Could be next month. And say what you want to about Trump. Yeah, he's a liar. But when he talks about doing something he wants to do, he pretty much well does that. As long as it's going to screw over a bunch of people, he does that. Let's see. Trump meeting with Machado next week. All right. Trump meeting with Machado next week. The U.S. president said he plans to meet with the Nobel Prize winner, Maria Corina Machado, the leader of Venezuela's opposition party, either Tuesday or Wednesday. "I'm honored that she's coming here," Trump told reporters during his White House oil event. Machado, Trump said, is coming to pay her regards to our country and to himself, although the president elaborated that he is the representative of this country. He then complained that he wasn't awarded the Nobel Peace Prize last year, right? Even though she dedicated it to him. She'll probably bring it to him as a gift. Y'all know how he likes them award gifts. So we just read this statement a while ago that it's unvestable. Yeah, so I'm not necessarily going to talk about Iran. He's just saying he don't want to send troops there. Let's see. All right. We'll go ahead and move on. And I did see something that I didn't bring up as far as the president of Colombia said that he would cooperate with the U.S., though they disagreed on what happened in Venezuela. Because I mean, I feel like the president of Colombia, I haven't seen too much, but just on this particular situation, I feel like he's wishy-washy on it. Because before Maduro was captured, he said, we stand with Maduro, we stand with Venezuela, right? And there would be serious consequences if the U.S. comes and does anything to Venezuela. But now he's saying he will cooperate with the U.S. I feel like he's playing both sides basically. Whoever wins, I'm on their side, and then. But anyway, Here from Mexico News Daily, it says protests erupt across Mexico over U.S. Military operation in Venezuela. All right, so protests in Mexico. So this is a response from Latin America in general. Like I said, I just have Mexico up here, but I don't know that there were necessarily protests in Colombia, but there were certainly responses from a lot of different states concerning what Trump did. What his administration did, I should say. Protests in Mexico following the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro by the United States on Saturday varied in mood between celebration and criticism, as President Claudia Sheinbaum and other Latin American leaders condemned the intervention. In the early hours of Saturday morning, the U.S. carried out a military operation on Venezuelan territory in which they captured Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, and charged them with crimes related to narco-terrorism conspiracy. Which, I don't know if the U.S. Court system is going to find this, but in my opinion, completely unfounded. Narco-terrorism is wild to accuse Maduro of when not 2 weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, he, and by he, of course, I mean the Trump administration, pardoned a Honduran leader, a former president who, you could argue was a narco-terrorist. But anyway, by Saturday afternoon, people in cities across Mexico, including Mexico City, Acapulco, Leon, and San Cristobal de las Casas, joined protests condemning Trump's intervention in Venezuela. Right, so you had people in cities all across Mexico who went out to the streets protesting America's colonial type operations. Right, and you already had Mexico very upset. You had these people in Mexico who are already protesting American businesses coming into their country, right? So they are not happy about what's going on in other parts of Latin America. In Monterrey, Nuevo Leon, protesters voiced their opposition to the capture of Maduro in Plaza de las Banderas, Flag Square, chanting slogans such as "Yankees out" and "We are Venezuela." However, several Venezuelans residing in Mexico publicly praised the news. In Monterrey's Plaza Bolivar, a group gathered to celebrate Maduro's capture by the U.S. Families carried national flags and signs showing their support for the overthrow of the long-standing president, while some displayed support for Corina Machado, the Venezuelan opposition politician who won the Nobel Peace Prize last year. Right, so people who fled from Maduro's regime, naturally, they were for this because they wanted Machado in, right? It's the same like when you had Cubans fleeing from Cuba during Castro's regime. Naturally, they hated Castro, right? So you have both sides to this. We learned so much from traveling to so many countries and realizing that no matter how much we adapt to places, it will never be like our homeland, the newspaper La Jornada reported. Alba Ruiz, one of the Venezuelan demonstrators, as saying, not all Venezuelans in Mexico shared this unequivocal support. Other contingents took a more nuanced stance, welcoming Maduro's removal while opposing U.S. intervention in Latin American affairs, right? Because you can say Maduro was, or is, a wicked ruler, tyrant even, while also saying the U.S. should not just be world police, right? Should not see themselves as the world police, all right? Let elections stand, and if you're gonna be involved in foreign politics, do it with aid of the polity, or excuse me, of the political party that you support, right? You can do that. A lot of countries do that, right? But as far as troops on the ground or military operations, that should be reserved for very serious situations, right? Very urgent situations or emergency situations. Response to Mexico City. Hundreds of Venezuelans residing in Mexico City marched along central avenues and outside the U.S. Embassy on Sunday to demand a peaceful political transition in Venezuela. Many celebrated the potential end to the dictatorship of the last 13 years under Maduro and 26 in total, the first step toward a free Venezuela. Yeah, good luck with that. That's not really what happens usually when America intervenes in a foreign country. I mean, you can make the case that like free as in everyone does what they want and it's chaos and it's a complete and utter decimation of a country, of a country's political structure. That happens all the time. That's basically all the well, not necessarily. Like they put in Allende, who was a fierce dictator in Argentina in the 70s. It was very authoritarian. So you have that sometimes as well. Instead of the complete destabilization of a political structure of a country like it was in Iraq and over there, Afghanistan. But anyway, the march in Mexico City was part of the global Hasta el Final, until the end movement, a slogan that has been used by Venezuelan pro-freedom activists. In response to the protest, the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City warned of possible adjustments to visa appointments scheduled for Monday, January 5th. Right? So they said, look, okay, y'all don't stop these protests, you ain't coming into the country. Meanwhile, the Mexican government issued a statement expressing its condemnation of the U.S.'s military actions in Venezuela on Saturday, emphasizing its support for the principles of the UN Charter. We categorically reject the intervention, we categorically reject intervention in the internal matters of other countries, Sheinbaum reiterated during her daily press conference on Monday. Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Uruguay, Spain, and Mexico have issued a joint statement rejecting the U.S.'s military operation in Venezuela. You see that right there. So you have all these countries, and this isn't just Latin America because you have Spain in that as well. So that's not technically Latin America, though that is the origin of the colonies, so to speak. But anyway, how many countries is this? Six countries who I assume are all allies have condemned the U.S.'s military operation in Venezuela. All right, so here we are in the last days. Y'all know what it is. Now, I've read these scriptures a lot, but this is what's unfolding. Right, when it comes to the prophecies unfolding, this is what's going on. All right, in 2nd Esdras, I believe it's 15. It could be 16. Talking about the strife rising up and whatnot. Let's see. I'll start with 14. Yeah, I'll start with 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, meaning destruction or tribulation. That's what woe means. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Right? So all these different wars popping off. For there shall be sedition among men. Right? So sedition would be like the whole Machado side, would be the sedition. And invading one another. I mean, that's what happened last week. Not a full-scale invasion, but certainly, the capture of another country's president, that is certainly invaded. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and they didn't care that he was the ruler of a country. Hey, go get him. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. You see that right there? Since the U.S. military had the power to do it, Trump said, okay, just go do it. While everybody's sleeping, just go do it. Go bomb them and take their president with his wife. All right? A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Right? That's what the U.S. Embassy's response to the Mexican protest was. Hey, maybe we just push these visa meetings back. Right? Maybe we kick that can down the road. Right? Meaning, hey, you can't go nowhere. Right? Um, yeah, so I'll keep reading. It says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." All right. So, um, spoil their goods, right? The oil, the resources. Literally, spoil their goods means take their resources. That's literally what spoil their goods means. All right. It said, "A man shall have no pity." Shall have no pity. Just go in and take what they want. Anyway, "Behold, saith God," and this is to the end that I will call. It says, "Behold, saith God, I will call together all the kings of the earth to reverence me, which are from the rising of the sun," that'd be the far east, "from the south." Now, you want to talk about the south, as in like from Israel, that would be into Egypt and Africa, and the southern hemisphere in general though would be like South America, right? It's literally called South America. All right, "from the east and Libanus," right? So east from Israel would be like what we call Iraq or Iran, around in there, but Libanus, Lebanon, "to turn themselves one against another and repay the things that they have done to them." Right? So, verse 21, "Like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, so will I do also in recompense in their bosom, thus saith the Lord God." And that is actually a great transition to the next story. All right? The Renee Good story. All right? So it says, "Wife of Minnesota woman killed in ice shooting. We had whistles, they had guns." Right? So I've actually seen the video of this, not the most recent one, because I don't like watching snuff films. It is what it is. I don't like people getting. I don't like to watch people getting killed on camera. It is what it is. Of course, in America, you see it. We've been seeing it, right? Particularly with Judite men first. Those were the ones that people were showing all the time, whether it be the body cam footage or somebody recording a cop killing a so-called black man who was unarmed. We've seen that a lot. And then here recently, I suppose, with the Charlie Kirk thing, I didn't watch that because, again, I didn't want to see it. And now, most recently, we have the Renee Good thing. I didn't. The most recent video that came out, I believe, is actually a lot more like close up because it's body cam footage. I think I could be mistaken, but I've seen the one where it's like a private citizen filming it with their phone. That's the one I've seen, where it's from a distance, where you can see like the whole scene. And yeah, it's pretty deliberate. Murder. Let's call it what it is. Murder. That's what it was. All right. The ICE agents looked like goons. They looked like a gang. The way that they pulled up and surrounded this vehicle and shot her. That's what they did. That's what they did. They pulled up. She's sitting in the middle of the road, right, in her car, in her vehicle, SUV, and they pull up, hop out, surround her, and kill her. Right? Once she tries to drive off, right, because they surround her, she tries to drive off, they kill her. All right, that's what happens. That's what I've seen. Like I said, there is other angles that have come out since then. I have not watched them. Maybe it's different. All right, but that's exactly what it looked like to me. They looked like gangs, or a gang, I should say. Anyway, the wife of Renee Good, the woman shot and killed in her car by a federal immigration agent in Minneapolis, says the couple had stopped to support their neighbors on the day of the shooting and described the mother of three as leaving a legacy of kindness. Right? So I didn't even know she was lesbian until I seen this article. But yeah, apparently she was a lesbian with 3 kids, right? White lady, all right? It's not really showing it here. I wonder if they got a better photo here. You can't really tell about the photo. because it's in black and white. But let's just look her up real quick. Now, obviously I don't know like her ethnic heritage or whatever, but it's a white lady. All right, you know, blonde hair, blue eye. All right. It said we had whistles, they had guns. Becca Good said in a written statement Friday that was provided to Minnesota Public Radio. The statement was her first public comment about the death of Renee Good, age 37, who was killed Wednesday after 3 immigration and customs enforcement officers surrounded her Honda Pilot SUV on a snowy street a few blocks from the couple's home. I thought it was more than 3. I thought it was like 4 to 5. I could be mistaken. Video taken by bystanders showing an officer approaching the SUV stopped across the middle of the road, demanding the driver open the door and grabbing the handle. Yeah, they were trying to forcefully remove her from the car. She did not acquiesce. She tried to drive away, and they shot and killed her. All right. The vehicle begins to pull forward, and a different ICE officer standing in front of it pulls his weapon immediately and fires at least 2 shots at close range, jumping back as the vehicle moves toward him. So that makes it seem like she was trying to run him over, but by the video, you can tell that the officer is in front of her SUV, but the wheels are turned. She has already turned the wheels and is trying to go around the officer. But, you know, he shoots and kills her. All right. Trump administration officials have painted Renee Good as a domestic terrorist who tried to run over an officer with her vehicle. State and local officials in Minneapolis, as well as protesters, have rejected that characterization. Yeah, because they've seen the video. They've seen the video. They know that she, once her vehicle got surrounded by these goons with masks and guns, she tried to drive away. But no, they killed her. Becca Good has not responded to calls and messages from the AP. Her statement provided no further detail about the day of the shooting and instead focused on memorializing her wife. The couple had only recently moved to Minneapolis and were raising Renee Good's 6-year-old son from a previous marriage. Becca said Renee was a Christian, a lesbian Christian, who knew that all religions teach the same essential truth. We are here to love each other, care for each other, and keep each other safe and whole. Which, you could say that. That's not really what every religion teaches. That's more of, you know, a modern Christian philosophy. All right? And yes, we are supposed to love one another. But just that in of itself, without a context of what love is the commandments of God. We'll get that here shortly, just to show, you know, the doctrine. But yeah, this I'll get into the scripture. I'll get into the scripture on this shortly. She thanked the people all across America and the world who have reached out in support of their family. Excuse me. Renee sparkled. She literally sparkled. Was she covered in glitter or something? Becca Good wrote, I mean, she didn't wear glitter. I didn't even say that. But y'all forgive me. But I swear she had sparkles coming out of her pores all the time. You might think it was just my love talking, but our family said the same thing. Renee was made of sunshine. I mean, to say literally and then made of sunshine is very weird. But anyway, far from the worst of the worst criminals, President Donald Trump said his immigration crackdown would target. Good was a U.S. citizen born in Colorado who apparently was never charged with anything beyond a single traffic ticket. Right? That's crazy. I've gotten several. Anyway, in social media accounts, she described herself as a poet and writer and wife and mom. She said she was currently experiencing Minneapolis, displaying a pride emoji on her Instagram account. A profile picture posted to Pinterest shows her smiling and holding a young child against her cheek, along with posts about tattoos, hairstyles, and home decorating. Her ex-husband, who asked not to be named out of concern for the safety of the 2 now teenage children he had with Renee Good while they were married, told the AP on Wednesday that he had never known her to participate in a protest of any kind, right? So it's likely that she was not even, there to protest, right? I don't know why would she be sitting in the middle of the street the way that she was. But even if that was like in a in a sign of protest, U.S. citizens are supposed to have that right. First Amendment right to protest, right? Um, Freedom of speech and all that. All right, but it's possible that something else was going on where she for some other reason. Maybe it was car troubles. She had stopped in the middle of the street. Her hazard lights were not on from the video that I seen, but it could have been any number of things. But obviously the ICE agents, who are not police officers, by the way, the ICE agents, who are might as well be vigilantes, they popped out like a gang, and like they were just trying, like, it's odd. It's very very strange, because it seems like a lot of them are just like bloodthirsty. You know what I mean? It's weird, like very trigger happy, with like reckless abandon. Basically, it's odd whenever you watch it. It's real odd, because they may be calling to her to like get out of the vehicle. I think I do remember seeing that in the video where they're like, get out the car, and she's not getting out. They run up to the door handle when she's not getting out the car, and they grab on it, right? And they're trying to forcefully remove her from the car. Then she tries to drive off. Then they shoot and kill her. All right. We were raising our son to believe that no matter where you come from or what you look like. Oh no, hold on. I need to read this. I haven't read this one yet. Becca Good said the couple, who had previously lived in Kansas City, Missouri, had settled in Minneapolis after an extended road trip. She said people they encountered in the Twin Cities had provided a strong sense that they were looking out for each other. We were raising our son to believe that no matter where you come from or what you look like, all of us deserve compassion and kindness. Becca wrote, I am now left to raise our son and to continue teaching him, as Renee believed, that there are people building a better world for him. That the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts. And we need to show them a better way. All right, so this, I said, this is a good transition here to talk about this story. And yeah, the reason why I said that, it says, like as they do yet this day unto my chosen, so will I do also, and recompense in their bosoms, thus saith the Lord God. Right? Because you look at the way that like white people in general, Americans in general, as I said earlier when I was describing kind of the lineage of these like snuff films of has been in the past police, but you also had like Zimmerman and Trayvon, right? But you had the Mike Brown killing, the George Floyd killing, obviously that's a big one, the Philando Castile killing, Sandra Bland killing, right? So you had all these, Edomites doing this to Israelites, right? Well, God said, look, okay, you're going to get the recompense, right? So now Edomites are doing it to other Edomites as well, right? So now Edomites are feeling it as well. That's where we're getting to in this judgment ring. All right, in this vicious cycle, so to speak. Anyway, photos show protests over the shooting of 2 people by federal immigration agents in Oregon. Right, so I just wanted to go through some of these photos, showing that these ICE agents, like, they do this. They shoot people, they kill people. This is what they do. All right, this isn't like a one-off case with Renee Good. This is a publicized case because it was filmed, but this is the type of stuff going on. They shot other people at protests. If you get in their way of what they're doing, they will shoot and kill you. All right, this is what they do. This is a modern day Gestapo, if you want to put it like that. All right, it said federal immigration officers shot and wounded 2 people in a vehicle outside a hospital in Portland on Thursday, a day after an agent fatally shot a woman in Minnesota. The latest shooting prompted hundreds of people to turn out for a nighttime protest at the U.S. ICE building in the city, right, in Portland. This is a photo gallery curated by AP photo editors, right? So Portland is already a very left-wing city, or left-leaning city, however you want to put that. And so yeah, they're more prone to protests out there. Protest the current administration. So you got I can't tell if that's ICE or if that's police, SWAT teams. Who is that? Yeah. Well, it said Portland police officers walk outside the U.S. ICE facility on Thursday. Okay, that is police. All right. Then what is this one? Them attacking somebody. Law enforcement moved to detain a protester outside the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility on January 8th. Yeah, so they're arresting a protester there. But he got zip ties right here. They're arresting. Is that the same guy? I can't really tell from the first photo, but it might be a different guy. All right. What else? What else? Somebody burned up the flag. The American flag burns outside the ICE facility. What else? I mean, that's a pretty symbolic and thematic photo right here. Wonder if it'll let me get that one. Well, let me get it, or is it gonna do a WebP thing? Oh, I hate a WebP thing. Anyway, let's see. It says, you got protesters here. Protesters stand off against law enforcement outside the ICE facility. You got signs and abolish ICE. Who's this? The scene at Southeast 146th and East Burnside Street, where a red truck shown here ended up after reports that federal immigration officers shot and wounded people in Portland. Okay, so I don't know the significance of that red truck nor where it's at, but I guess that's right after they shot a couple people. All right. Said ICE agents abuse and murder people. Shame on you. That's a protester there. Protester with a sign. All right. There's another vehicle. A damaged car is seen as law enforcement officials work the scene following reports that federal immigration officers shot and wounded people in Portland. Right. So you have, I guess this is like a daily thing now, where these ICE agents will shoot and kill people. And that's where we at with it. All right, so it said protesters and law enforcement stand outside the ICE facility on Thursday. Yeah, so it's just random people out there. All right, what do we got here? 2 protesters are lit by a police light as they walk outside the ICE facility. All right, so a couple of protesters there. All right, so just wanted to show, this isn't just, a one-time thing. This is just what's happening now. All right, this civil unrest. This is what's happening. It is what it is. That's where we're at with it. And so, you have these vigilantes out here killing Edomites now, right? And I forget where this is at in Sirach, but it may be in chapter 10 in the book of Ecclesiasticus. Y'all forgive me while I look for this scripture here. That's chapter 1. Let's go to chapter 10. Maybe chapter 10, maybe like a little earlier. Let's see. I know this is the one talking about pride, but thought maybe there was a one before it, maybe not. Yeah, so let me bear with me for just a second here. No. But concerning y'all forgive me. I'll look this up real quick and I'll get back on it. While I'm looking for that, we can go to in Deuteronomy 30. I've seen people bring this out, and I wouldn't say we're quite there yet with this prophecy, but we see in 2 Ezra 15 that I had read earlier that God is judging the nations according to how they deal with His people. All right. So in Deuteronomy 30, it says more or less the same thing, but this is more the end result of that transfer of power. All right, and in Deuteronomy 30, I'll start with 1 on that. It says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thee. Thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee. All right, so he's talking to his people scattered around the world. Once we realize that, hey, we've been under the blessings in the past, and now we're under the curses, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thy heart, with all thy soul. All right, so we return back to God, we repent. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. Right, so that's the prophecy of Christ. He is that Savior who will deliver us. That's gathering his elect, so to speak. Okay. So yeah, I was looking for Sirach 14. I thought maybe it could have been there. Anyway, if any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. All right, so God will not leave anybody behind. All right, who deserves what? Or I'm not going to say deserve, because none of us really deserve his kingdom, but who have earned it. He will not leave anybody behind who has earned the kingdom. And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Lord thy God will circumcise thy heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. So all of that has not happened yet, right? The deliverance, right? The end time deliverance. You read about it in Luke 1. You read about it in Matthew 24, among other places. All right. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which have persecuted, which persecuted thee. I don't want to add any words to it. But people have been reading this Deuteronomy 30 and 7 and say, well, this is the curses coming back on the enemies, which we're not quite there yet. I would say it's more of, that 2 Ezra 15, God judging them according to how they've done it to us. You could say this is a slow transition, right? As far as, the curses being put on them and being taken off of us. But the full fulfillment of this, as you can see through just by the context here, is after we are delivered, right? Once we go back to the land. So I just wanted to talk about that. But concerning Esau killing his own, because that's what this appears to be. Yes, she could have been an Israelite who was in sin and was therefore put to death. It could have been judgment. In that sense, it's kind of irrelevant now. But just what this is on the surface, right? What this kind of symbolizes. All right. In Sirach 14 and 5, it says, he that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. Right? So when it comes to Esau, the way that Esau has run the world here in these last days, right? Because we read in 2 Ezra 6 that Esau is the end of the world, Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Right? So the way that Esau has run the world here in these last days has been wicked. Right? There's so many, even if we want to say Renee Good, well, she was an Israelite, okay, which she may or may not have been. But even if we want to say that, look at all the different videos and clips and, whether it be like articles, like blogs, whatever, there are, Americans saying they're fed up with America, saying it's too hard to live here. You need 2 or 3 jobs, and you still might not even be able to pay your rent, depending on where you're at, right? So this country is falling apart because you have had the richest, the wealthiest, the most powerful Edomites steal from even his own, as it said, or to himself. To whom will he be good, right? So when it comes to the wicked, right, Esau is called the border of wickedness. They won't even be good to other Edomites. They don't care about them. So much less do they care about Israelites or, Moabites or Ishmaelites or anybody else. All right? They'll do what's convenient. All right? They'll make a league with whoever for whatever kind of time they need to, and then turn on them. All right? That's why all this is going to end with a big nuclear showdown, so to speak. All right? That's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. All right. So got that in Deuteronomy 30 and Sirach 14. Let's go back to 2nd Ezra, but chapter 16 here, because 2nd Ezra 15 and 16 go into, this kind of upheaval, the kind of destruction from within on a lot of these places. Let's jump down. All right. I'll start with where do I want to start here? I guess 14. I'll start with 14. Behold, the plagues are sent and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. Right? The seals that you read in Revelation. All right. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer, returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon earth shall not return again. Right? So, in modern times, that comparison would be like a bullet that's shot from a gun. Right? Once a bullet shot from a gun, you can't put it back in there. All right? It's shot. It's going to go wherever it is pointed at, basically. All right? So it's the same way that it is these plagues from the highest of these last days. All right? Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows. And that's where we're at. The beginning of sorrows. All right? And great mournings. The beginning of famine and great death. The beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. All right? So understand that. This is all a script that is playing out. All right? It's already been written. The roles have been filled. Like we're in the final act. We're in the third act of the play, basically. All right, it's all unfolding. All right, we are in the beginning of sorrow, so I guess you could say we're reaching that second act low point. But y'all get what I'm saying. We're close to the end of the movie. We're close to the end of the movie. All right, the beginning of the end, if you will. The beginning of famine and great death. The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Right, so Ezra's tripping out because the Most High told him, hey, this is what's going to happen. Ezra like, hold on, wait a minute. How am I going to live in that day? All right, how am I going to, withstand these things? How am I going to endure these things? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. All right. He said they won't be mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, all right, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, right? Because look at gas prices. Gas prices are down, right? People think everything's all right. Everything else is up, but still, it's pretty easy for Americans compared to like the rest of the world, all right? Because we can still go to grocery stores. Other places cannot. All right, even though inflation is up, it's still cheap here. All right. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right. So let's say I don't know what was the like heyday of American prosperity. Maybe like 90s and early 2000s, right? Before the Great Recession, and though these evils were increasing in the earth, Americans thought nothing of it, right? But now it's almost getting to a boiling point, all right? That's where it's headed to, and a lot of people are just fine and content to just live their lives, become more and more dependent upon technology, and just pine away in their iniquity, so to speak. Right, as it said up here, it said, "But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges." All right. So, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Right, and the AI is part of that great confusion. That's something I've seen that I did not mention earlier. As far as these AI videos, trend that kind of went around this past week of People making AI videos of people taking a human mask off and it's like an alien up underneath. And some are very obviously AI, very obviously Sora too. But still, people are saying, well, what if these are real, right? Because we are at that point where people can't tell the difference of what's real and what's fake anymore, right? I being one of them. A lot of videos, like most of them, I can be like, okay, well that's AI. But others, I'm like, I don't know. And then on others, I'm looking at, I'm like, well, this is too weird to be real, but it's doesn't look fake enough to be AI, right? So you have a lot of that stuff going around too, where hey, we're in these last days, and there's signs, especially in the heavens. There's signs in the sky all the time of things happening and things like that aren't supposed to be there, that doesn't make any sense, but are still flying around and whatnot. And some of them are chariots, but other things is just like, what is that? Right? Or like creatures that's being spotted out. Like it's a bunch of crazy stuff going on that I'll never even get into. But like, if you look around, you'll see it. Right? People kept catching stuff on their Ring doorbell cameras and stuff. Like it's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Great confusion, as it says here. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Right? So some people getting killed, other people are just starving to death. All right? And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. Right? So that's where we're headed. We're headed to great distress. But right now, as I said, we're in the beginning of sorrows. All right? I do just want to point out, as far as like the gay thing, let's talk about that. Obviously, that's not biblical. That's not Christian. That's not Christ-like. Christ was not gay. He was celibate, actually. He, as far as we can tell, which is not unusual, because people will say, well, how do you know he didn't have a wife? How do you know you don't have sex with anybody? It's because it's not unusual whenever you read the prophets of the scriptures for them to just be celibate their whole life. All right, it is what it is. Jeremiah was one of them. We never read about a wife of Elijah. Like there are prophets who had wives and kids, but there's also, it wasn't strange for or like for example, Samuel and Isaiah were prophets that had wives and kids. But it wasn't strange for someone to just a prophet, especially, to be celibate their whole life. That was not weird. That was not unusual in ancient Israel. All right. But in verse 17, it says, "There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel." Right. And if you look in the 1611 KJV out here to the side of whore, it actually says sodomitis. Right. So the translators put that little note in there to say, when they say whore, could mean adulteress, or a woman who's having sex with many men, or it could also be a lesbian. All right. But when you go to the New Testament, it's far clearer and plainer. You claim to be Christian, but when it comes to like the New Testament scriptures are very clear on people being gay and if that's good or acceptable or not. In Romans 1, jumping down to, I'm just going to get to the point about lesbians specifically, because that was Renee Good, that was Becca Good, right? Well, I guess she was bisexual, but regardless. Verse 26, it says, "For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another. Men with men working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet." Right? So both sides of it. Both sides of it. It said their women changed the natural use into that which is against nature. Right? Because you can't naturally have children with two women or with two men. That does not work. All right. It said it's unseemly. All right. And it said you will receive recompense for your error, and that will be right. All right. So from there, because they also talked about loving one another and whatnot. But when the scriptures talk about love, it's talking about applying the commandments of God. And it's how do I want to put this? We certainly, we certainly don't say or practice or preach that, you know, you should be going out here like hating or, doing anything violent or anything like that. I'm not saying that applying the love is the commandments of God. That doesn't negate the fact that, you should show kindness and respect to each other. Like that's, what I'm saying. It's just when people, especially in Christianity, say, well, God is love, or that, we should just show love to each other. That's what Christ taught. They're leaving out the part about, well, love is the commandments of God, right? So they'll say in one breath, they'll say, we should, love. But then they'll say, but we ain't got to keep those commandments. You know what I'm saying? But that's not what the Bible says at all. We love by showing the commandments. All right? In 1 John 5, starting with 2. By this, we know that we love the children of God when we love God and keep his commandments. Right? So that's how we love one another, is by loving God first and foremost. All right? Because if you love God, he says it here in verse 3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous, meaning it's not a burden on you to do what God says to do. Right? So if you love God, you're going to read the scriptures. You're going to read in Leviticus 19 where it says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, not suffer sin upon him. Right? Even when you read down Leviticus 19, it says to love the stranger as well. Right? So loving your people by correcting them, loving the stranger as well by not annoying, oppressing, or doing anything to harm them. Right? As Paul said, live peaceably among all men. Right? So showing that love to one another. All right? By the commandments of God. You don't negate the commandments of God and say, well, I'm just going to show love. That's not how it works. All right? So keeping the commandments of God. One of them said, hey, don't do the gay stuff. It didn't literally say that, but it said no whores and no sodomites. Right? So that's the commandments of God. All right? That is love by saying that. All right? Doing all the things that God asks us to do, keeping his high holy days. That's how you show love to him. That's how we show love to one another. We come together on the Sabbath. We come together on new moons and Passovers and Pentecost, Tabernacles, Hanukkah, Purim. So I'll read verse 4 as well because I love this verse. For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith. Right? So that's a beautiful thing there. I guess we can close it out there. I'll get Matthew 26. I was considering closing out with Matthew 24, but we read in 2 Ezra 16. It's the beginning of sorrows. That's where we're at. We're still at the beginning of sorrows. We'll know when we get past that point, when that great tribulation that Ezra was describing and that Christ describes as far as like being persecuted and things like that, being delivered up, to those that hate us. We'll know that, okay, we're in the thick of it then. We're not in the beginning, we're in the middle of it at that point. The end of sorrows, of course, will be when Christ returns and delivers his people. So with that, let me get this here in Matthew 26 concerning the sister Mary. Now when Jesus was in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he said, had meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman have done be told for a memorial of her. So with that, I hope y'all learned something. Happy Sabbath. I say shalom, and let God be magnified.